Okay, so I'm going to show two different approaches to solving this question. The first approach is a big picture problem solving approach, and it works for weighted averages. And weighted averages are situations where you average two things together, but you don't get an average that's perfectly in the middle because one of the two things is getting weighted more heavily into the average. And so in this situation, we have two solutions of 2% and 12%. But the total that we get is 5%. And we're asking how much of the 2% do we need? So if the total is 5% and we look at it on a number line like this, there must be way more 2% than 12% because the average is way closer to the 2% side. So whichever side the average is closer to, that tells you which side is more heavily weighted in the ratio. Now, the components of the ratio that we're going to find are the distance from each side to the weighted average. So this distance is a distance of 3%, and this distance is a distance of 7%. So we have a 3 to 7 ratio. Now, the heavier part of the ratio is this 2%, and the lighter side of the ratio is the 12%, because we know that the 5% is much closer to this side. So we have a ratio now, and we think of ratios as really being 3x to 7x for a total of 10x parts if you add them together. And that means that if we have 10x parts and we know that there's a total of 60 liters, that means each of the x's is worth 6 liters. Now, if each of the x's is worth 6 liters and we plug them back in for each side, the 12% and the 2% side, the 2% side will become 7 times 6 liters, which gives us 42, and that leads us to answer choice E. Now, I like this approach. It's big picture problem solving and it's quick. You could also take another approach, which is to say the fraction of this 60 liters, so let's call it n liters, the number of liters, times 2% plus n 60 minus n times 12 is going to have to equal 60 times 5. So I've removed the percentages to use simpler numbers, but it's going to give me a consistent answer since I basically multiplied everything by 100 to get out of percents and into whole numbers. So we've got 2n plus 60 times 12 minus 12n equals 60 times 5. And notice I'm not doing too much math here. I'm kind of like winging it. I'm going to move the negative 12n and the positive 2n over to the right-hand side, and I'm going to move the 60 times 5 over to the left-hand side. So I'll get 60 times 12 minus 5. I distributed the 60 in each, equals 10n, because I'm going to have positive 12n and negative 2n on the right-hand side. And now if I divide by 10, I'll get 6 times 12 minus 5. And we know that 12 minus 5 is 7. And so we will get the same answer we got over here, which is 7 times 6 is 42. But I think that this is a little bit more difficult and time consuming for me. To each their own, right? So if you prefer this sort of method, it's robust, it's good. Basically, the number of liters at 2% plus the number of liters at 12% is going to equal the number of liters at 5% if it's a weighted average. So this gets us down to 42, which is answer choice E.